Welcome to Take 5 and thanks for joining me. There's an old legend about three men who were crossing a desert with their camels, carrying spices and goods they were going to trade in the next town. As they approached a dry creek bed, they decided to rest for the night. Each man set up his own tent, and after an evening meal, they each went to their tents and slept. In the middle of the night, each man heard a voice commanding them. It said, "Gather some rocks, for tomorrow you shall be glad and sorry." So the three men reacted differently and went back to sleep. In the morning, they picked up and resumed their journey. It was only when they arrived at their destination that the first man started the conversation, asking his friends if they had heard the voice at night. When asked what he did, the first man said, "What good is it for me to collect rocks in a desert than for me to prioritize water and the goods that I'm trading?" The second man responded and said, "Well, I assumed the voice was the voice of a wise man or a divine one, so I just took a few pebbles and put them in my pocket. Here they are." When he took them out, everyone was surprised to find that the pebbles had been transformed into diamonds, rubies, and other precious gems. When they turned to ask the third man what he had done in response to that voice's command, they couldn't restrain him, for he had run to his camel and started unpacking his sacks. The third man had emptied all his goods the previous night and filled all his sacks with rocks. So while they traveled, his camel was weighed down by bags and bags of rocks. When he now opened his sack before his friends, they were shocked to find bags and bags of diamonds, rubies, and precious gems. Question is, was the second man glad and sorry? Yes, he was glad in a few precious stones that filled his pocket, but sorry that he had not gathered enough. The third man, when asked, said, "I am glad, all right, but sorry that had I packed more, I would be way gladder," if there ever is such a word. Well, we can't talk about the first man, can we? He was full of regret, for he was in fact sorry and sorry. As we live on in this life, we pursue different paths to fulfillment, discarding one. And our decision at the climax of all things will either make us glad and sorry or sorry and sorry. The former because one would have realized if only they had chosen the path sooner. And the latter because it will all be too late. We live in a world going through crises, wars, strife, hunger, and now we have the COVID-19 pandemic. There is need for us to take a pause, take a break from all the hustle and bustle, and take 5 and reflect on life's big questions. While in lockdown, it is a good time to chew on this, so that after the quarantine, a different person will emerge from the other side. Some people were asked, were they afforded an opportunity to sit down with God and ask him questions, what would they ask? One chose this question: "How do I know you, God, exist? Right now, as we battle the pandemic, I really wonder if you exist at all." Well, as for me, I have seen, despite the problems in the world, that God exists from a few perspectives. The first that we will consider today is take a good look up. Did you know that the Earth is 93 million miles away from the Sun, and the position of the Earth from the Sun helps preserve life? If the Earth were to move somewhat closer to the Sun, we would all fry. If it were to move somewhat away from the Sun, we would all freeze. Scientists nickname Earth's position in the solar system the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, not too cold, it's just right. Have you ever considered the size of the Earth's moon in relation to the Earth's inner core? If the moon were bigger than it is now, the Earth would have tidal waves and non-stop tsunamis. If it was smaller, we would have no seasons. It seems an intelligent designer weighed all the bodies in the universe and set them in motion, then afterwards gave them a "that's good" rating. Genesis chapter 1. When one looks at the blanket of the firmament that shields the Earth from excessive solar flares and solar radiation, tunneling the few after deflecting the rest into the magnetic zones of the north and the south poles, releasing a few light densities that we call aurora lights. When one observes the hydrological cycle, the gaseous cycle, and the sun rising from the east like clockwork. When one observes that there is no collision of the planetary bodies, while everything follows its path, rotation, and revolutions, one can only be convinced that there is no order out of chaos, that there is no life from non-life, that there is no Big Bang that does not define life's beginning without explaining the beginning of that very first particle that is purported to have exploded. Romans 1:20 says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." If you take a good look up, you can see the visible, testifying of the existence of him who is invisible. The presence of suffering in the world does not negate the presence of evidence of an intelligent designer, and that is with a capital letter D. Glad and sorry? I wonder if we will have a similar feeling when we get to the climax of all things. Let's make the most of our opportunities so that at the climax of it all, we will be more glad than sorry. Thank you for joining me today on Take 5. God bless you.